Welcome to episode 009 of the Coded for Chaos podcast. My guest is Geoff Orazem.
Pleasure to be here.
We've been friends for a long time. We've been friends from, I don't even remember the original origin story of it, but it was one of those situations where pre-COVID DC where we just like ran into each other all the time.
I've always said it was Tech Day by the Bay.
Tech Day by the Bay. That's what it was. Yes, because we were just getting strategic cyber venture started at that time. And that was one of those early kind of like, let's sort of be like have events sort of Silicon Valley-esque here in DC. That was a good event. Whatever happened to that?
I hope it's still going. It was a great event. I still wear the t-shirts.
Yeah, I never got
really good t-shirts.
Yeah.
Oh, they were soft.
But that was good. You got on a bus and everybody went over there and did a thing. I should look into that, see if that's still a thing. But COVID hit and we no longer ran into each other on the streets. And then you moved to Philly.
That's right.
And you're back in DC. And Coded for Chaos is kind of we're still figuring out what we are, but it's really just a conversation with influential people in DC in my basement, kind of talking about the chaotic lives they lead and the organizations they're a part of. And just sitting here and catching up with you. Wow, you're doing a lot of things. I mean, you got you're lots of irons and lots of fires. Good to have you back in DC. Always here. Always thought a lot of you. And let's start off with like kind of your origin story, because it's like a super interesting, very DC kind of origin story, I guess. You were with the St. Mary's College in Southern Maryland.
That's right.
You were not an ROTC guy, but then you left and you said, I'm going to be after 9/11, you're like, I'm going to be an officer in the Marine Corps and go to Iraq.
So almost. I wish I had quite that story. It had such a linear nature. So I was coming out of college. I was graduating college in 2000. And I was very much on the go to jail, go to the military path.
Really?
And no time. And so I walked myself into a recruiter office one day. So I was like, for some reason, I thought I was going to be a medic for the 82nd.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew what that meant, but that's what I was going to do.
How'd you get that in your head?
No idea.
Yeah, just
nobody in my
Band of Brothers or something like that.
But it was pre-Band of Brothers.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
But this nobody in my family served. But I sort of had always loved it. Grew up with G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
I think I knew I needed to get straightened out. Walked into the Army recruiter's office. Dude was a dirtbag. I was like, I don't trust this guy. I'm walking out thinking, I guess military is not for me. The Marine hooch was the last door as you're walking out.
They're all next to each other?
All next to each other. All the services were next to each other. Back when it was 4 services. The Marine is like, hey, son, what brings you in here? I was like, the Marine Corps. I don't think they're for me. But I was like, I'm here anyway. Walk in, rest is history. Dude was awesome. No idea. Couldn't tell you what his name was, but then crisp, just sharp, really sharp answers to all my questions. Got me connected to an OSO, the officer selection officers. Basically as soon as I graduated, went off to OCS in Quantico, and
that's awesome.
So glad I did.
So this is before 9/11.
Pre 9/11. I was at infantry officers course when 9/11 happened. We thought they were screwing with us because an officer candidate school, we had an infantry officer course. They're always keeping you off kind of on the back foot. Like, oh, you're going to go do this. Actually, you're going to go do that. Very fluid environment.
Yeah.
And so we're at the mortar range where they were practicing assembly, disassembly, bubble up drills for the mortars. One of the instructors comes out, hey, plane just hit tower. We thought it was like, oh, all right, they're just prepping us for some counterterrorism training exercise. We didn't really think much of it. Hour later, whatever.
You didn't have a smartphone. You were in a military training environment where we had no other communications coming in. Yeah,
that's right. We had no way of checking in. Everyone thought this is a training exercise. Second plane hits. I remember, the instructor comes over. Second plane's hit. My buddy Tyson Belanger, who was in training with us, he raises his hand. He's like, "Hey, sir, is this real or is this a prep for a mission?" He's like, "No, this is real." And you could just see everyone, because first with one plane it could be an accident. Second plane it was just we all sort of knew it was we had joined a peacetime Marine Corps. We are now in a wartime Marine Corps.
Yep. I was at Fort Huachuca at the captain's career course, similar training environment. Although I wasn't I didn't have drill sergeants and stuff like that, keeping the rest of the world for me. And so similar type environment where we're even though we were watching it on TV, we're like, can this be real? Interesting. Okay. So that's the timing. And then you're like, boom, I'm in a wartime Marine Corps. I'm going in, you were going to be like a rifle platoon commander. You went to Iraq.
That's right.
As a rifle platoon commander. Tell us about that.
Oh man, it was best times, worst times kind of thing. You know, it was funny. As I look at what happened to the guys who went even a few years after me, I think we had it sort of the easy. If you were going to go to war, deploy, we kind of had it as easy as you could. Like this was the very, very beginning of the invasion,
Pre-insurgency,
pre-insurgency, and it was like they were kind of wearing uniforms, and we were definitely wearing uniforms, and it was like kind of what you train to, right?
Yeah.
It's like big blue arrows, you know, red force, blue force. Yeah. It kind of looked like a conventional fight,
right?
And it was, and so it was like we're very good at conventional fighting, right. And like I remember, you know, we had A-10s overhead. We had
you were going into Iraq.
That's right.
Like this was part of the invasion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, there were big blue arrows and red arrows, and you were like the order of battle was kind of like existed, and you were like there'll probably be a minefield here, and then the artillery will be 10 kilometers behind it, and all that kind of shit. All right, yeah, I always forget that those days exist, right? After all those years of unconventional that existed after it, and we're kind of going back into that now with a fight, you know, against near peer adversaries, but we don't really understand their doctrine like we thought we understood Soviet doctrine, or it doesn't even really exist anymore, or who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody really knows. I'm not even sure they know.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, it's wild. Like I see video coming out of Chinese exercises, and you know, on the one hand, they look very crisp. On the other hand, you know, so did the Soviet propaganda videos. You know, the Potemkin field exercises that were going on over there. And so I do wonder, you know, how much of this is a paper tiger, and you know, how much of this is, you know, genuine military excellence that I see on, you know, these Chinese drills that
they don't have the experience that we have for sure. Although I guess they have some, you know, taking place through covert action now in Ukraine and other places like that. But yeah, you know, the Soviet style videos of like tanks busting through the smoke and all the Hind helicopters right on top of them, and you're seeing some of that similar stuff now. And you know, is that all just a ruse for the main effort being all non-conventional cyber and all these other things? Who knows? Okay, so you were in Iraq. You left the Marine Corps around 2005. Yeah, and you went to back as a contractor to Iraq. Yeah. So what kind of masochist are you here? Like,
oh man, so yeah, in between went to law school. So
in between went to law school. Okay.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. So got out, went to law school.
Went to Boston.
Went to school in Boston.
Yeah.
No, well, not in Boston.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the joke there? What are you supposed to say? Like when you don't say Harvard, you say
I went to school in Boston. Well, not in Boston.
Okay.
No Tufts. Yeah. that's the 30.
That's how you went out it.
That's right. It's a really obnoxious trait.
How did you decide? Okay. How did you go from I might go to jail or the military. I want to be an 82nd Airborne medic. Oh, wait, the recruiter doesn't know what he's talking about. Run into a Marine Corps recruiter, knows what he's talking about. Become a Marine Corps officer. Yeah. Get out of the Marine Corps, or go to Iraq, get out of the Marine Corps, and then be like, I'm going to go to Harvard Law School.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. So I was a very different person on the back end of 5 years in the Marine Corps, you know, not surprisingly. You know, it's what I had wanted. I wanted to straighten out. The Marine Corps is very good at straightening people out.
Yeah.
It's an extraordinary institution that I have an incredible amount of love for because of what they do for young people.
Yeah.
Myself included as a beneficiary. So I was a very different person, but I still had this albatross of like a 2.5 GPA from undergrad hanging around my neck. Or I don't even remember what it was. Definitely sub 3.0 GPA. Did very well on my LSATs, but you know, I had this terrible GPA. So I put in my applications for 4 big state law schools. It was Florida, Georgia, Maryland, and University of Washington. Decided that I was like, put my law school applications out, went on a 6-month backpacking trip, kind of just circumnavigated or just did a loop around the Mediterranean. So it was like Egypt, Morocco, Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Turkey.
Shit.
Did that for over the course, just kind of hitchhiked around for 6 months. Got here. just me.
Yeah.
And I just kind of needed to clear my head a little bit, and then got accepted. 3 rejections. The only school that accepted me was University of Florida. Spent my first year of law school at University of Florida. Did very well.
Yeah. Good law school too.
Good fun. Yeah. Great law school. And I love University of Florida because they took a chance on me. Like, there was this kid coming out of the military.
Yeah. Did the military part help out a lot?
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, it had to have.
Yeah.
Had to have. And so ended up doing very well my first year of law school. I was sitting next to this guy in class who was like, after Christmas break of the first year, said, I got accepted for transfer to Georgetown. I was like, what? You can transfer law schools? And so I looked into it. And it's like, yeah, you can. So I ended up, after my first year completed, I had done very well in my first year and applied to kind of the top 10 law schools in the nation, and got into a lot of them.
Damn.
And I was like,
yeah, because you were a Marine and you had good grades from Florida.
Yeah, because my first year grades kind of papered over, and I addressed it head on in my personal statement, in my essay. So I was like, hey, the guy that was coming in at 18 into undergrad at 18 is not the roughly 28-year-old 10, I guess that 6 years later, I'm a different person. You should look at my grades from my first year of Florida law as more representative. And anyway,
that's amazing.
And they took me on transfer.
So you ended up in not in Boston.
No.
You cranked through that. You were like, I'm going to be a lawyer. Right? It's like, I want to be an 82nd medic. Now I'm going to be a lawyer. Like, what did you envision yourself doing as a lawyer?
Oh, man. The law has got the best PR machine in the world, right? Because, like, when you think of law, you think, like, Crusaders, it's Ally McBeal, it's LA Law, it's Aaron Brockovich. It's like, everybody's attractive, driving great cars, crusading for the little guy.
Right.
None of that could be further from the truth.
Yeah.
Like, it is the most miserable profession I've ever met. And, like, really what did it for me was I was on the Montgomery GI Bill.
Yeah.
I was getting peanuts. And so I was saving every penny I could while I was at law school. And so to help save some money, I would always go to the law firm receptions. Like, basically at law school, it's like every night you could be going out to a bar, restaurant, whatever, and some law firm is going to pay for your dinner.
Yeah.
And by way of generous appetizers and a couple drinks. And I made it a point. I was like, because after my first year, I was sort of like, oh, I'm just kind of getting this vibe that being a lawyer might not be for me. So I made a point at every one of these events to ask all the lawyers from the firms who were sponsoring them, are you glad you became a lawyer?
Yeah.
And over the course of doing this for 2 years, I probably asked that question to 300 lawyers, mostly partners. Of them, 2 gave me just looked me in the eyes and said yes. The other, 198, whatever it was, gave very wormy answers.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I like working with smart people.
That's a standard shit.
Yeah, standard shit. And I was like, well, you know what? If 2 out of a few hundred are happy they made this choice, it's probably not a good choice.
Yeah.
So kind of the realities of being a lawyer, plus I did my law firm summers, one in public sector, one in private at a law firm. Hated it. I think there's a place for lawyers. It was not right for me.
Right.
That coupled with this, this is 2008-9. The war in Iraq was not going well.
Right.
This was full insurgency years, and I felt pretty guilty. Right, like I had been part of the force in 2003 that had like broken down the door, that had just fundamentally upended Iraqi society.
We kicked the Army's ass, like they had. Yeah, but then we also didn't bring any of their officer corps back. That was like a huge mistake, right?
So many mistakes.
That was probably your decision.
It was 100%. Paul Bremer was like, "Hey Geoff, what do you think?
Yeah, let's axe the whole officer corps.
Yeah, let's just disband the debathification. That's not going to haunt us." Man, yeah.
So you decided to go. You decided to go back in a different capacity.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be part of the rebuilding effort. I say that it was my time to pay off some karmic debt from 2003. And part of that's true. Like I felt really guilty. Partially I felt really guilty about what we had done to the people there. I also felt guilty that I had done a Westpac, so basically, a Marine Expeditionary Unit, just put a bunch of Marines on Navy ships, send them around the ocean, see if something happens. That was my first deployment. Second deployment was the invasion. And like the guys that I had served with were like on their 5th deployment at that point. I felt pretty guilty that I'd only done the 2. So, number of factors. I found this great organization called the Iraqi Transportation Network. They were working with tribal leaders all across the country to bring them together to try to create economic cohesion and business incentives that aligned the sheikh's interests with the U.S. military's interests. To this day, I think it was an incredibly impactful operation program. It was very much aligned with the tribal engagement strategy that was going on in those late the late aughts, we'll say. It was wild, man. Because back when I was 23, I was a platoon commander. I had 53 Marines, all the guns. I had, over the hook, I had access to air and arty.
No.
I thought I had, I was a pretty big swinging.
Right.
Yeah. I had nothing.
Yeah.
We could break shit, but we couldn't change people's behaviors. We couldn't change mindsets. But I come back at that point about 10 years later, at that point, with no gun, I had a shotgun under my bed.
Yeah.
But I had no physical power, but we had economic power. We were going out there, we were flying to Amman, we were flying to Beirut, we were in Dubai, we were all over the country cutting deals. And all of a sudden, you could see behaviors change. It's all of a sudden, the sheikh stopped viewing the U.S. military as their enemy and occupiers. They're my customer. I am getting contracts to run freight for the U.S. military. Those freight contracts are underwriting a bunch of mechanics and underwriting a bunch of trucks and drivers. It is creating economic opportunity for the agriculture in my area.
Yeah.
Massive impact, massive security impact with no physical power.
Yeah. Do you think, I always often think about this, I wish it was I feel like I'm going to die not having explored the Middle East like I wish I would have explored, because I would love to just fly to Baghdad, rent a car, and drive up the Mesopotamian, the drive to Kurdistan. But I mean, I'm sure I see it on my wife's TikTok or whatever, people doing that, but it's still not safe to do that to this day. If for me, right? Or, but I could do that. But do you think we'll see a day where we could do that?
I do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the people said the same thing about Saigon, about, Ho Chi Minh City, all of those, places in Vietnam. I'm sure people said the same thing.
Yeah.
I remember, I've had a lot of backpacking trips in my life. One of them, I'd spent a lot of time in Vietnam. I was I don't want anyone to know I'm an American.
Right.
And I was they didn't care.
Yeah.
They were oh, you're an American, you're cool. You want to buy some of my old propaganda posters?
Right. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I have no doubt that within our lifetimes, there will be groups of vets going over to Iraq, to Afghanistan, doing tours.
Yeah.
I'm 100% confident.
Will it be more than that? Will you be able to take your family there? And
I think so.
Okay.
Why not? I mean, Iraq was a stable, functioning country before we went in.
That's true.
It'll get back.
That's true. Yeah. If it would have had a more friendly to American dictator at the time, it was stable and functional at that time. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Interesting. So you went back to Iraq, you came back to the U.S., and you're like, what next? Oh, I'm gonna join McKinsey. What made you decide to do that?
Well, it was kind of going back to what I was saying about this having my eyes open to the power of economic incentives.
Right.
Up until that point, through the Iraqi Transportation Network, I had really just been a student or a Marine. And so this idea that, businesses have these second order effects, I just sort of, grown up sort of businesses are there to make money. They sell tires, they sell whatevers. That's all they do. It was a very naive perspective, but whatever, growing up, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And so being part of the Iraqi Transportation Network and seeing that actually businesses have these second and third order effects that are political, that are affecting security, that are affecting their livelihood and their quality of life, got me really interested in business and how businesses operate and how money affects systems.
Yeah, especially at organizations like McKinsey. I mean,
And I was lucky enough. I did my first round interview from Kabul over the phone, and second round interview was in Dubai. Third round interview was in the DC office. I feel very lucky that I got an offer.
How's your Arabic?
At the time, it was passable.
Yeah,
I could get around. At this point, it's
right.
Vape.
I still got a few phrases in there somewhere.
Somewhere.
So you stayed at McKinsey how many years?
So it ended up being just over 3, so 3.5.
And somewhere in there, you came with the idea to start Eastern Foundry.
That's right.
Yeah. And for a lot of people that don't remember, it's still pretty fresh in a lot of people's memory. Eastern Foundry was kind of a big deal here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. It was pre WeWork and all this other kind of stuff. I mean, it was before WeWork.
It was when WeWork was tiny. Yeah, WeWork was there, but it was quite small when we got started.
Yeah, but it was, for me, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it was sort of like the first real attempt to bring together startups and policymakers and the innovation ecosystem and defense contractors all kind of into like one hub, and particularly to give people a fast track to how to work with government that maybe didn't know how to work with government.
Yep.
Yeah.
There were people doing flavors of that. Yeah. I think each of those elements existed. Like there was 1776 that had like flavors of that, and there were a million trade associations that had flavors of that. I think what Eastern Foundry did that was really unique and powerful was just bring them all together under one roof.
Yeah.
So that you had all of the the benefits of networks and relationships and the economies of scale that you could achieve by having 200 small GovTech government contracting companies co-located.
Yeah, I remember the couple times I visited there, it was interesting because I saw the small GovTech companies like working with each other, sharing information with each other. That could be a pretty lonely place, starting a GovTech business. And then, especially if you're like from Iowa and you come here to start a GovTech business, there's now you're probably tracking it, and we're a member of it at this Station DC. Yep. I don't know if you've had much.
I just went there for the first time 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
it was great.
Yeah, so it's kind of how do you feel like? How does it compare to what your vision was for Eastern Foundry back in the day?
I think it's great. Yeah. I mean, like I'm really happy at Capital Factory because like I actually don't know technically who was first, us or Capital Factory. Yeah, but they really they have a great job. Yeah, they got a lucky, good, whatever it is, doesn't matter.
And they were in Austin.
All being there with our Futures Command, being able to like embed with them so successfully. I think it's great.
Yeah.
So I love that GovTech, Defense Tech is having a moment right now.
Yep.
And there's so much interest from capital, from really high quality entrepreneurs and founders, from the policy ecosystem, from this administration has put a lot more interest in acquisitions reform and engagement with small non-traditionals.
Yep.
Which is wonderful.
And we need a physical place where people can go and just sit down and say, like, introduce me to the person to help me figure out how to do this thing. Because otherwise you're just sitting at home, like spinning, like not knowing what to do. So I'm super happy about that aspect of it. We're excited. We just committed to like having 1 day a week. Strategic Start Ventures is going to operate from there, and just to see like how it goes.
That's great.
Yeah, it could be bad. There's a bar inside of it. I've only been there. I haven't been there since it's opened. We've only been there when they were building it. It only opened a few weeks ago. So Eastern Foundry was a great stepping stone for a lot of reasons here. These COVID hit. Yeah, not good for any of that kind of stuff.
Sadly.
And this is where like your career takes like some interesting turns. Like you get into tech scouting. Is this right? Like around that time, or am I forgetting any?
No, so it all kind of like started with COVID. All of a sudden, because the governor shut down all the co-working operators, and we hadn't taken any outside capital. So we were fully bootstrapped, and so which meant that we had very thin cash reserves. And so when COVID hit, all the members, the governor shuts it down, all the members leave over the span of 6 months because they're small businesses trying to keep payroll together themselves.
Right.
So Eastern Foundry went away, which was very sad, but it also created a lot of space to really explore things that were like second and third order priorities when I was running Eastern Foundry.
Yeah. So what was that first priority? Like, what was the first thing you explored?
So once Eastern Foundry, kind of the writing was on the wall. So it was funny, like a lot of things all sort of came together at the same time. So one was there really needs to be a better version of SAM. So this mechanism to find contracts, to understand them, to evaluate them, to pursue them.
Yeah.
So that became a SaaS product called FedScout. The second piece was...
That still exists?
Still exists, still out there. Their second piece became this educational tranche, which was, let's start creating YouTube videos. Let's start publishing a lot of information about how to engage with federal programs. It also became about the same time we ended up getting a contract from DARPA to help with them reform some of the aspects of their acquisitions and awards processes. So sitting on the other side of the table, up until that point, it had been very much, hey, I'm going to help these small businesses try to hack the acquisitions process to get in. It was very cool to then sit on the other side of the table to be like, okay, here's how we can reform your processes. So there's a lot of the McKinsey toolkit of like, here's how you analyze process. Here's how you try to rationalize processes to become more efficient. It was great. We were partnered up with MIT for that. We ended up having a lot of impact in that. Yes, the initial phase of research became a second phase of research, and now we're still on contract with DARPA, trying to actually promulgate the innovations we created for DARPA. We're saving them. They're saving a ton of time. We're not doing anything at this point. They're doing it themselves. They're saving a ton of time, ton of hours by making the process changes we created, which it's just great to see.
Yeah. To create something that's still out there, like making people's lives easier, ultimately making our government more effective, making the defense industry more effective. But you also took some other turns around that time. Tell us about what else you did.
Yeah, so about that same time, got approached by a venture fund called J2. They were just getting going, and they were looking for somebody who had a lot of experience with federal programs for startups, help on the startup side, on the operator side, help on the policy side, the acquisition side. A mutual friend introduced us to one of the managing partners, and I've been an advisor to them ever since. I love the J2 team. Happy to talk about why they're great.
What do they mostly do? What's their focus?
Yeah, so basically they are doing. I joke that about the same time that J2 was starting, a whole bunch of venture funds had the exact same investment hypothesis. I've told that I don't mean this in a mean way, but the underpinning of the J2 investment thesis is not terribly novel. What is novel is how they've executed, how they've actually delivered on that thesis in a way that I won't say they're unique, but very few other funds and fund managers have actually been able to deliver on this promise, which is dual use technology. It's this basic it's a well-recognized truth or, truism in the space that venture investors dislike technology. Yeah. They don't like it when there's a real question mark about, hey, does this technology, could it work? Does it work?
Right.
That sounds like an expensive proposition that could take years to resolve. Government, on the other hand, loves that risk profile. It's like, oh, you're trying to create teleporters? Great. We're willing to walk down that path with you for 30 years, and even with a relatively low chance of success. Well, that's how you end up with GPS. That's how you end up with Siri. That's how you end up with LCD screens. These are very long investment cycles into technologies that may or may not work.
Is there a name J2 like the military nomenclature J2?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, so one of the managing partners was an intel officer, Army intel officer, and that's where it comes from.
So there was a story that was brought to my attention about you having a plugger in your backpack in the Marine Corps that you never used. Right. So tell us about that. That kind of leads to what you're there, dual use.
Yeah.
What was the plugger story?
Oh my God. Yeah, no, I've told this. This is if every supervillain has an origin story of being slighted,
sure.
This is my origin story for my supervillain origin story. So the Marine Corps, I don't know, did you have pluggers?
Yeah.
Okay. For those of you who are not familiar,
I got out of the Army in 2005, so there you go.
Oh, yeah, for sure you used plug.
Yeah.
Okay. So for those who are not familiar, the plugger, it's about kind of the same footprint as a cinder block. It's not quite as tall, but the same, it's probably that big. It's a military GPS unit, just absolutely unusable.
I was getting this confused in my head a minute ago. I was thinking this was a thing you used to fill a radio. I know what a plugger is.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's me.
Yeah. No, I know what a plugger is. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I had a plugger.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't connect the cables.
It was a piece of shit.
It was a piece of shit.
Yeah, it's a total piece of shit.
And so, every lieutenant in the battalion had a plugger.
Yep.
I don't think a single lieutenant pulled their plugger out. We all, before we deployed, I think every single one of us went to REI and bought a Garmin GPS.
Yeah. Did you still have to your battle load? They wanted you to have a plugger. Yeah.
Of course, because
what's a plugger weigh? A pound and a half?
Yeah, probably about that.
Yeah.
Just dead weight.
Yeah.
And so, of course, platoon sergeant's going to come along, and then battalion sergeant major's going to come along and be do their spot inspections.
Where's your plugger?
Where's your plugger?
Yeah.
As they should. That is important, and they should do this. At the same time, it was just you got to that thing's never leaving my bag.
Yeah.
And we all just, when we were on patrol, when we were like making the movement to Baghdad, all of us were just like pulling out our garments.
Right.
Check our location, plot on the map. And that just infuriated me. But I didn't really think much of it at the time. It was sort of like, being, as a lieutenant, being infuriated by shitty gear, it's like the same as being, infuriated by shitty weather. It's just like, it just happens. There's no sense getting upset about it because you can't change it. Well, fast forward a decade, I'm in a position where it's like, wait a minute. The people who decided to buy the plugger aren't smarter than me. They, they're not like it's not like they had some genius insight. There was just some business that was trying to sell them a plugger, and they bought it. Mm. And now that I had been at McKinsey, I had been able to see this experience of Eastern Foundry, to see how small businesses operate and how contractual acquisition decisions are made. I was like, wait a minute, this is not a good system. The only reason that these companies getting the plugger contract is because they were the most connected, not because they had the best product.
Yes.
And so that really got me angry, frankly. And which is what in turn led me to go get very excited about Eastern Foundry to help small businesses accelerate their growth.
Yeah.
Got me very excited about being with J2 to help fund and create those bridges and connection points from the startup ecosystem into government.
What's J2's success story around dual use, or is there one?
I don't know, we've got so many at this point. The one that's the easiest, we're an investor in Aura Ring.
Okay.
And it's just, what a wonderful story.
Yeah.
A piece of pure play commercial technology, helping athletes, or really anybody that will
leap on or anything.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Same idea, right?
Yeah, same idea. Yeah.
And so helped, I won't say that we can take credit for this, but we were definitely helpful and helping Aura understand, well, what does the federal marketplace look like? Is there a use case? Is there a buyer? Yes, there is. Is there federal funding? Is there federal acquisitions dollars? Yes, there are.
Right.
Let's help you get involved. And now a lot of people in the DoD, a lot of people in the Air Force are wearing Aura rings, which is great. But the entire portfolio is like that. At this point, I'm pretty sure I can say that there are two new companies, but 90% of the portfolio has either gotten federal funding or made a federal sale.
What stage does J2 invest at?
So all over the map. So we've done some venture creation. We have done back of a napkin, a professor, somebody coming out of a federal lab, whatever it is. We've gone that early.
Yeah.
I would say that the sweet spot for the fund is going to be in that seed Series A.
What fund are they on?
So let's see here. So it depends on how you count, but they're in Fund 2 today.
Okay.
So Fund 3, doubtless.
Interesting. That's I kind of got that vibe from online, but that's the really good. That's why I love doing this. So, it's almost just like a conversation to learn about what other people are up to, and I hope other people feel the same way. But you're also at the same time doing tech scouting for the 75th Innovation Command.
Yes.
Out of the Army Reserve, and in that capacity, you went back in the military. You enlisted in the Army.
That's right.
And you're a Harvard-trained lawyer / former 03 in the Marine Corps infantry dude who's now an E4 in the U.S. Army Reserve.
That's right.
So for anybody out there who doesn't know, an E4 is below sergeant. It is a specialist.
Yep.
In the Army. You really wanted to do this. You're probably the most overqualified Spec 4 in the U.S. Army. Have you met anybody else like you?
One other guy who has a very similar profile.
I love interesting National Guard Reserve stories like this. I have a friend who has been a pilot / aviator / whatever you want to call it in the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy. He's flown everything from OH-58s to A-10s to F-15s to F-18s. He's flown every platform. And he's a UPS pilot, but he's still in. He's an 06 in the Louisiana Guard, and he commands a forward observer unit in the Air Guard. But he's flown all those fucking platforms, and you've done all this shit. Now you're at E4 in the Army again. What's that like?
Honestly, it's been
You wear a uniform?
Well, it depends on on drill weekend.
You actually it's like a uniform wearing unit. Yeah,
that's right. So for me, it was I just wanted to get back in. I missed the community, I missed the camaraderie, I missed the mission.
That's awesome.
And so I was.
A lot of people know this about you. A lot of people know this, that you're back in the Army. You wanted it that bad.
Yeah, it's on my LinkedIn.
Yeah, all right.
The people, my friends know.
Yeah.
So I missed being part of an organization. Like to this day, the guys that the lieutenants in my company, every week we're on text, we're busting balls, we're having, telling jokes.
The only kind of shit you can do in the military.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like those three guys, I haven't physically seen them in probably a couple of years since pre-COVID. But like, they any one of them calls.
Yeah.
I'm on a plane, like no questions asked. And it's just, there's a special kind of cohesion and camaraderie and community that I don't think you get many other places. Number one. And the second reason why I love the military, this is going to be a little corny, but I really believe it. The U.S. military is the greatest social program in America. Hands down, I will fight about this.
Yeah.
I don't think there's another organization that has sent more kids like me who are kind of lost to college than the U.S. military.
Yeah.
You want to know what does social mobility mean for like guys that are coming out of rural America, coming from like inner city?
Oh yeah, you got to be in the military to see it.
If you're like the top 1% athlete or academic, cool, you've got a path.
Yeah.
For everybody else, what's your path to advancement? Military.
Yeah. Yeah. This is about talking to other people. I had similar origin story with my freshman year was at Virginia Tech.
Yep.
And I was partied too much. I had terrible grades, 2 point something, and all my friends were at Virginia Tech. And I was like, I gotta get out of here. And I went to a small state school in Louisiana and got an ROTC scholarship because I knew some people that said, hey, they're giving away scholarships if you come here and you join this ROTC program or do this thing. And it changed my life because then I had to like compete in ROTC. I had to get up and do PT. I couldn't go out and drink and do stupid shit. I mean, I still did that, but only in the military do you show up to physical training completely drunk still. And somehow still pass the test and do things like that. But back then, we thought it was funny because we just throw up and like do more push-ups. And you could do that because you were 19 or whatever. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it is I agree with you on that. I think it's for like the dudes that were in my platoon or in my S2 shop or whatever, to get to the Army, some of the dysfunction of the Army and the military. I was in a S2 shop in a parachute infantry battalion for my very first assignment. And the Army decided to put a Mexican national E4 specialist who had enlisted in the U.S. Army in the S2 shop, which is like the one place you don't put somebody that's not a U.S. citizen.
Yep.
Because
of clearance? No.
Yeah,
of course not.
He had no clearance. And he was he was like our RTO / whatever we needed him to do. Like nobody else. He was also kind of like not the most physically fit guy to be in an airborne infantry battalion.
Okay.
And Specialist Zarate, wherever you are out there, Specialist Zarate, I miss you, man. But we also weren't a wartime. This is pre 9/11. We were the OP4 at JRTC. We were an infantry battalion, but we were also just playing Army all the time. So we made it work. We didn't have any classified stuff we were doing. We used to jump into the box at JRTC, like literally parachute into the box. And Zarate, POC Zarate, would bring refried beans and fresh limes. And I would be like, I was a dumb second lieutenant, I'd be like, this motherfucker's got refried beans and fresh limes. This is amazing because it's delicious. Yeah. Like we were out there eating like kings and, but we also had like random dudes from Iowa or whatever. And just people that were lost. And like we gave them like a path. And people ask me all the time, like, how did you get into cyber? And what'd you do this? And like, how did you become a venture capitalist? And I was just fucking mostly luck, but it was also because of the Army. It was 100% because of the Army. And I look back on other dudes out there that were lost and they, like the Army gave them a path, or the Marine Corps or whatever gave them a path. And so when they ask me, I'm going to go into the Army. But a lot of people don't want to hear that anymore. Or go into the Marine Corps, but it's why do you think that is? Do you think that's changing? Do you think people like, how did you get into cyber? Join the Army. Oh, anything but that. Do you think that's changing with like,
I don't know. I sort of base my opinion here just based on looking at recruitment numbers.
Yeah.
And it feels like there was a bit of a downturn over the last few years, but my sense is that the recruitment numbers are basically solid.
Yeah.
And so, if the recruitment numbers, if the total force is roughly the same and, the number of 18-year-olds is roughly the same as it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Probably.
Okay.
I mean, then again, I would also believe that's a little bit harder decision. Like if I was 18 today, that means I was born in 2007. And so like, seeing, or I guess not seeing, but like, being aware of the war on terror, and like, those were tough years, man. Like there were a lot of guys coming back.
Operation Direct Freedom, like it seemed like it was never going to end. That's why I got out of the military. I looked around the room and I was like, I'm going to become that guy.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to become that guy. And he's been divorced 5 times, and he's been divorced 26 times, and he's deployed 46,000 times. And I was just like, I'm done. I'd had my fun. All right. So you're trying to get back into the commissioned officer corps now. You're not going to say you're back in the military. You're an enlisted dude in the military, right? in the reserves right now. You're trying to go the route of getting back as an 04, you said, or something, whatever. 04,
what matter?
Who knows? Maybe an 07. Maybe it'll be like, like you are an 07. We need a new brigadier general in whatever unit.
I'm fit.
Yeah, you're fit.
I mean, look at you. I listened to the Sec Wars guidance.
I mean, how many push-ups can you do?
Enough.
Okay, enough.
I could meet the 18-year-old, male standard.
Yeah, you look good. I feel like brigadier general, like I think bare minimum. But you're trying to get back in.
Yep.
Is it a direct commission? Is what the barrel goal?
Buddy, this has just been a nightmare. This has just been a nightmare. So 2 years ago, they come out with this direct commission program, 38 Gulf. It's basically an advisor to the civil affairs ecosystem. My background in economic development in Iraq, McKinsey, said, this is a great spot for me. Put in my papers. Of course, it took them over a year to get the decision back. They said, yep, okay, you've been selected for direct commission to major. Cool. Takes a full another year, like processing paperwork, just bureaucratic buffoonery. Getting in, it's security clearance. It's the actually I already have the security clearance because I, for my Cat Scout unit, and then but it was about getting my health taken care of. About 2 months ago now, they came back and said, just kidding, because you're a prior commissioned officer, direct commissions don't apply to you.
Even if you resigned your commission?
Even if you resigned your commission.
Okay.
Didn't matter.
Because it's still like you were commissioned at some point.
Yes. And there was an ambiguity, I guess, in the reg initially. So that's why they put many prior commissioned officers into this program. And they said, oh, and by the way, you're gonna have to do 19 weeks of residential training because you're gonna have to go back to OCS, Bullock A, Bullock B.
You have to go to OCS.
Well, it's a Bullock A, is, kind of the OCS equivalent. It's what the surgeons and chaplains go to.
Right. Like saluting school. Yeah.
And I was like, I just had my second kid. And, I'm running, I'm like a senior leader at a couple different organizations. I can't take 19 weeks out to go learn how to salute again. Like, this is a terrible use of my time. And also they said, do not pass go. You went through the wrong program, so you're going to have to start a whole nother cycle.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I'm done with this.
Where is that school? Is it Fort Benning or?
There are a couple different locations around the U.S., but it's like nowhere near here. Like I would not be, my wife would.
You couldn't go to Fort Belvoir and do it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. If it was like 9 to 5, maybe. It wasn't. It was going to be like a huge imposition for the family.
I was thinking the military's 9 to 5, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I'm out. I'm done with this. My enlistment ends. Actually, my enlistment ends in a couple days. I will no longer be Spec 4 Orazem shortly. Doesn't matter. But I was like, I'm just not going to pursue this path. I wrote like a pretty scathing post on LinkedIn, got a lot of attention.
Yeah.
The general officer who I'm familiar with reaches out. He's like, hey man, I'm going to make this right. This isn't okay. He reaches out to HRC. HRC makes a bunch of promises about like, oh yeah, we're going to take care of this guy. We'll like do an accelerated process. No, they didn't.
Yeah. Did they ever reach out?
No, I reached out to them and they were like, okay, cool. You can go back through the regular Army recommissioning program. Next board's in March.
And that doesn't matter if you were commissioned in the Navy or the Marine Corps or whatever. Or
yeah, I guess not.
Yeah.
I guess that's true. Because you're right, because it would be a Marine commission coming over the Army.
Yeah.
But so long story short, like I couldn't believe HRC just gave the middle fingers to a general officer.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. So you haven't given up. Like, what are your next steps?
So the next steps right now is a few things. And by the way, if anybody's watching this, would love some help. So what I'm really looking for is a place where I can use my civilian skill set to make a contribution to this Department of War mission around accelerating acquisitions, engaging the startup ecosystem. So I have reached out to like everybody at Ensign, DIU, all the innovation commands around the area.
Right.
what I'm really looking for is a reserve, preferably IMA, but I don't even really care. Like, I'll do weekends, whatever. Do with a TPU reserve unit, cool.
Yeah.
Just let me be a part of an organization that's actually using my skill set. So I'm keeping my recommissioning packet in. Like, I figure I'll get looked at for recommission in March. Realistically, the board results will get released in the summer of next year. If I can find a unit that's actually like, where I can actually make a contribution, cool. I'll join them, go be Captain Orazem again, cool. If not, whatever. Like, I'm a contractor with DARPA. I'll make my contribution through that.
So is it helpful to remain enlisted? Does that give you a leg up, or does it really?
No, I checked.
Yeah.
I checked that. Like, I asked everybody's like, what happens if I get out? What happens if I get out? And everyone said, as long as you have a good physical, and I do have a good physical because of this direct commission nonsense, I'll be okay.
So, I just saw the other day, I didn't realize this, that Army Training and Doctrine Command and Army Futures Command were merging somehow. Do you know?
Weird.
Yeah. So, like, I guess the thought is that training and doctrine needs innovation, like to kind of fight the next war, and they need to be like one thing. I don't know. I literally just saw that was happening. I'm familiar with TRADOC because TRADOC existed when I was in the Army.
Right.
Innovation Command is something that happened after that, but being in the innovation industry, like, I've kind of followed it closely. Always kind of wondered what it was like to be a soldier in Army Innovation. Am I saying it right? Army Innovation Command?
Yeah, so like it's innovation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the one in Austin?
Army
Futures Command. Futures Command was merging with TRADOC.
That's right.
But is innovation?
It's very unclear.
Okay.
I probably should. I'm still an enlisted member of the Army. I'm probably, I'll be back in 7 days.
Tell me about it. Like,
I'll tell you as soon as
you don't want to get any court-martial right.
Yeah. But I will say, I just on the record, the 75th Innovation has got some of the most talented NCOs and officers I have seen anywhere, period, full stop.
Yeah.
My encouragement to whoever's listening to this is make use of that talent.
Yeah.
There are some world-class, like I'm talking about, like Ivy League educated special forces officers, like just top dudes.
That's where the Army is all. I'm just shocked after like 2 decades of war that we still aren't in a place, and you don't have to comment on this as a guy still, but like I hear these stories all the time that the HR and the Army still doesn't have a way of really like spotting, assessing, and recruiting top talent for
100%.
for like really hard things.
Yeah.
I mean, I understood this pre 9/11. I was a Persian Farsi focused military intelligence company, and instead of taking Iranian Americans, we took Korean Americans and turned them into Persian Farsi linguists instead of sending them to the Korean speaking platoon, or like some random dude from Ireland trying to force them. It's like we have communities of Persian Farsi people in America. Let's put them over here.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not just that. The linguist part of it, but there's this part of it. As we sat here and talked, and I learned about your career today, like, what the fuck? Like, you were a McKinsey consultant. You're a Harvard trained lawyer. You were an infantry officer. You went back as a consultant to Iraq. Who wouldn't want you as like a civil affairs officer, civil affairs, right? Or a civil affairs officer or intelligence officer or like any number of things in some sort of direct commissioning role back into like the military in some capacity or in an innovation capacity. It's just absolutely batshit crazy. So I'm glad you haven't given up on that. I'm assuming that, it'll take another like significant threat to the U.S. to kind of get us back into this gear again, into this mode. So I get this, people ask me this all the time, probably not as much as you, because you're much closer to it than me. But, people that are saying, people that are leaving the military, what, advice do you have for me as I transition out of the military to find a job? Like, kind of the best advice I have now is like, be willing to do things like go into sales and stuff like that. Because I'm like,
there you one.
But what are some of yours?
So this is a bit of like one of my soapboxes. This is something I feel very strongly about. I will tell anybody who asks, I never made a good decision until I was about 33 when I was leaving McKinsey.
Mm.
I made a lot of lucky decisions. Like I went to the Marine Corps. Lucky decision.
Right.
It was
you could have gotten in your car and not seen that Marine recruiter, and then it would never happen.
That's right.
Yeah.
I ended up going to law school, and I got very lucky to get to Harvard. I ended up joining a program that luckily was doing really good work. I joined McKinsey. It largely was luck. Right? I sort of had like vague ideas about what I was trying to achieve with each step. The first time I made a good decision, I mean, and the process for making the decision was good process, was when I was leaving McKinsey. And because I'm in a unit now with a lot of guys who are at inflection points coming out of business school. They're trying to figure out what the next stage of their life is going to be professionally. Get this question a lot, and for whatever reason, a lot of people reach out to me on LinkedIn. Hey, what should I do? This is what I tell every single one of them, and I will pound this table. So this is what I did when I was leaving McKinsey. I treated my job search. So the nice thing about leaving McKinsey is they give you a few months to go, like on salary, full benefits, no work, just figure out what you're going to do next.
Like you're saying, I'm leaving McKinsey, right? And they like, wow.
They call it search time.
Okay.
And so like in my case, I think I got 3 months. It was 3 or 4 months. Basically, they just said, you're on salary, you're on benefits. You don't show up to work. Your job is to find your next job.
That's even if you choose to leave.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Interesting.
It's happy to talk about how brilliant that is, but
yeah.
So this is what I did, and it took me a little while to figure this out, but I'm so glad I did. Was I treated my job search, my personal next step, as if it was a McKinsey strategy study. So McKinsey strategy studies, in my mind, it's actually fairly simple. You identify all the criteria along which you're going to evaluate what good looks like. So if you're like, hey, company wants to, expand it to China. Okay, well, how do you evaluate a good decision versus a bad decision? Is it revenue growth? Is it top line or bottom line growth? Is it marketing? What defines success to you? And then we're going to run every case. It's like, okay, you don't go into China. You do go into China. It goes, well, you go into China and the market drops. You have cases. I treated that like myself. So I just said, okay, what makes me happy? And I literally just wrote on, I looked like a crazy person, but around all over my kitchen were Post-it notes of specific moments in my life when I'd been happy. There were probably, by the end of a week, there were probably 100 Post-it notes of like, specifically, it was like, there was that time at the top on Machu Picchu with my buddy, and that moment I was happy. Mm. There was that moment when I opened Easter, and I guess I hadn't started Eastern Foundry yet, but whatever. I was like, there was this moment where I did this, and I started clustering them. I started looking for affinity between these events. I was like, okay, there's a theme around creation here. There's a theme around discovery and like exploration. There's a theme, I sort of ended up with like 9 themes. I said, okay, apparently these are the 9 factors that make Geoff happy. And if I can have those in my life, I will probably be more happy. Yeah. So I made a chart. Just said, okay, across the top, those are the 9 themes. And then every time I explored a new job, it was like, okay, do I want to, join a different consulting firm? Do I want to start a business? Do I want to go into PE? Do I want to go into corporate strategy I would do some research. I'd take people out to lunch all the time. Be like, hey, tell me about your job. Mm. I would feed that into the matrix. I would say, okay, corporate strategy at big company X, it scores like this on my 9 criteria based on my research. And it was really great because I started identifying themes. I was like, wait a minute. There's a clustering of the jobs I'm exploring around entrepreneurship. Like when I talk to entrepreneurs about their lives and how, on these 9 criteria, it's scoring really well. That was a strong indicator for me to go explore entrepreneurship. Yeah. And so whenever somebody asked me, hey, what should I do next? I tell them, you can't answer that question until you know what makes you happy. And that's the first step, is just hit the brakes on your job search. Yeah. Do your self-search.
That's tough for a military person too, because they're not really trained to like do things that make them happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great advice. Okay. And you're totally equipped as a McKinsey consultant to like do it in an organized fashion. But everybody understands, write things down on sticky notes, then clump them together to like kind of find like centers of gravity around things.
That's right.
Like, awesome. All right. So if you had to go back in time, give your former self somewhere along your life, wherever, some advice, like what was some like, what would you do? What sort of advice would you provide yourself?
Oh man, it depends on how far back I go. Like if I go back, a couple steps back in the chain, I would tell myself, do this exercise, the exercise that I just described. Yeah. Do that sooner. I think the funny thing is, I probably wouldn't, the decisions themselves probably wouldn't change that much. Like, I still think I would have joined the Marine Corps. I still think I would have gone to law school. I still think I would have gone back. But I would have done it with a lot more clarity about what was important. That's one piece of advice I would give myself, just to have that certainty, and I would second guess myself a lot less. Second thing is, I think this is a perennial problem in my life, is that, like, I get interested in so many different things that I miss out on depth. So I think in my life, I've like really prioritized breadth of experiences. Like right now, I'm doing 4 different jobs for 4 different like major customers. Yeah. Fairly different work, which I love. And like, I wouldn't trade. Like, I really enjoy it because I get to do something different every day, and it's engaging, and like, I don't get bored. At the same time, I think that other people have gotten further, in the traditional sense by being focused. Like, you've created an amazing fund. You've had a lot of focus, and it's been extraordinary. You've created something that's
well, my wife wouldn't agree with you on the focus, but yeah. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. You guys, it's very like, I'm down in a foxhole, like focused on kind of one thing. Yeah.
But it's allowed you to create something enduring.
Yeah.
And that's something I worry about, is like, I've enjoyed it. I've dabbled, and I've been well compensated, and I've had wonderful life experiences, and I've really enjoyed it. Like, I like that happiness analysis. I still go back to it all the time and be like, if I add one more thing into my professional plate, does it score well on my happiness chart? And I only take things that do.
Well, if you hadn't done that many things, you probably wouldn't have figured out what makes you happy if you would have just focused on
helpful.
Yeah. It's very helpful. And it's tough to remain focused. We have to constantly remind ourselves to stay focused, because you can get in today's world, you can get so distracted.
So easy.
Just with this, like, sometimes we're like, are we just creating content and doing marketing to do marketing? Or are we becoming a marketing company, or what are we doing this for? We're doing it to find more companies to invest in that are awesome, and then to help them grow and exit and rinse and repeat. So we're doing this for that. It's sort of like a supporting role in the military, supporting everything supports the infantry, killing people, breaking things, like keeping the peace. I think that's some great advice. I think that's some really great advice for people getting out of the military, and for your former self, which is also applicable to people getting out of the military today, which I find, if I were to do a sticky note drill, one of my sticky notes would be working with young people in the military, because I got more enjoyment out of that. I'm not sure I would have great advice for them anymore, but the very limited times that I do get to do that, I'm like, man, I miss working with Joes. Just kind of like the random shit that happens. And I forget what it was recently. I had the opportunity to do that, and it just reminded me of so many different things. And it reminded me of an experience where I was the OIC of moving President Clinton out of the White House, which is the most random job I ever had. But I tasked myself, because I was the only person with the appropriate clearance, and I was about to go to the advanced course, and like it came down to me, and I tasked myself anyways, and I went and did it. And having a bunch of 18-year-olds working in the White House, moving Clinton out, the dumb shit that came out of that operation. But looking back on it, I'm like, man, that was working with Joes in an environment like that was so much fun. Geoff, thanks for coming on the Coders for Chaos podcast. Episode 009. Hope to have you again sometime down the line. We can hear about your re-entry as a commissioned officer in the U.S. Army. Fingers crossed. And hopefully we stay connected and do some more stuff now that you're back in D.C.
It's wonderful to be back.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, thanks for joining us.